Welcome to Retro 2 Fix, starring Dustin Morris. I'll be your host, Jacob, and today we're going to be looking at a PS5 that came in with a simple HDMI port, according to the customer. But when we powered it up, the system was completely dead. Dustin dug into the board, found a short circuit that was blocking the power, cleared the short, and installed a brand new HDMI port. Now, everything is back up and running again. Quick note for everyone watching, we're going to be filming with Meta 2 AI smart glasses. If you like this first-person point of view, let us know in the comments below so we can do more films like this one. Take it from here, Dustin.
Hey everybody, I am going to try and do a repair today with my new MetaQuest glasses to give everybody a point of view of how repairs are done on PS5s. So today we have a console here that I believe needs an HDMI port. That's what the customer says. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to try and turn this on and see if it powers on. Looks like we're getting no indication light at all that it powered on. So I think it's not going to be an HDMI port. I think it's going to be some sort of power related issue. Yep, we are getting nothing at all. Power-wise, so I don't think this is an HDMI port. So let's go ahead and open it up and we'll see what's wrong with this thing. First thing we're going to do is we are going to check the power supply. So you can do a quick check on the power supply by checking to see if you have voltage at the fan. So with our voltmeter in DC mode, we should be able to check the fan and see if we have 12 volts. As you can see on the indicator, we do have our 12 volts. So that means our power supply is most likely good. So now we need to figure out what is causing this to not turn on. So let's go ahead and take it apart. Alright, we got all the screws out. Let's go ahead and get this fan off. Keep an eye out for little critters too while we're doing this. Not seeing any signs of them, but that doesn't mean they're not there. Go ahead and take this off. Alright, I don't see anything over there. And I really don't see any signs of bugs anywhere, so I'm guessing probably no bugs on this one. So let's go ahead and take this cover off next. many screws they put on here. I'm sure they are all totally necessary. Unplug everything. Okay. I try and save these stickers if possible. Alright, so now we can go ahead and pull this off. This might have already been taken apart before. That came off pretty easy. And then we can take off our clamp. Off, and we can just connect these two cables and get our final 3 screws out here. Okay, now we can take the board out. Just have to lift up and put a little pressure on it, and then it kind of hangs up here where the power supply connects, so pull it out there. Looks like we have a little bit of a dry spot on the GPU. But it's not too bad. Alright, the first thing I like to do is I like to try and inject voltage into the system. That kind of can lead us to what the issue is. Hook up our red lead here and our black lead to any ground, and you can see that I have it set for 1 amp and 12 volts, and we will inject power and see what kind of current draw we're getting. We're hoping for above 300. We are not. We're getting 59, and it's sitting there holding at 59. Oh, there it goes. Now it dropped back down. So something is not turning on. So now we need to try and figure out what is not turning on. So I generally like to try and start with fuses. So we're going to look around the board and see if we can find the fuses. Unfortunately, you probably won't be able to see this in the microscope, but I need to find the fuse here. Okay, see it now. Couldn't see it there for a second. So we're going to put this into continuity mode, and we're going to check the fuse here. Make sure this fuse is good. Okay, there we go. Fuse is good. Next fuse is fuse on this side. see another fuse on this side. There's several fuses over on this side though. Alright, so let's see here. Fuse right here. Might be an issue. Let me look at my microscope there and take a look at this fuse and make sure we're getting on the leads. Okay. So this fuse is definitely blown here. We're not getting any reading at all from it. So that is most likely our problem, but what we do want to check before we determine that that's our problem. So this side of the cap should be shorted to ground. This side should not. Okay, it's not shorted to ground. So that means that we don't have a short on this line. Just for some reason we blew this fuse right here. So we are going to go ahead and take that fuse out and replace it and see if that is our problem. So the first thing we want to do is we want to wrap up this cap here because we don't want to get that cap too hot. So we are going to wrap some aluminum tape around it to try and protect it from the heat as much as we possibly can. So I'm going to cut a piece of tape off here and I'm going to wrap it around this cap and try and protect that from the heat as much as possible. So make sure we get it all the way down and just wrap it and tape around it like that. That should protect it pretty well. Okay, and then we are going to put a little bit of flux on here, and we are going to grab some tweezers. And we are going to grab our heat gun and we are just going to remove this fuse. A lot of heat there. Okay. The fuse has been removed. So now we are going to look and see if we have a exact board match so we can just grab a fuse off of that. I think I might have one down here. Not sure. I do not. So go over here to my stack of boards and grab this specific board and see if we've got a fuse to match that one. Here we go. Alright, and the fuse that we're looking for is this one right here. So I'm going to look in the microscope, make sure that fuse is there. It is. Let's see. Grab my tweezers here and get a little bit of flux. And we'll flux that up a bit. And we'll cut off another piece of tape. This is a parts board, but just because it's a parts board doesn't mean we want to destroy that capacitor right there. You never know if we'll ever need it. So I'm going to go ahead and tape that one up too, just to try and protect it as much as possible like we did with the last one. If the tape will cooperate. Alright, let's see. There we go. Alright, we'll throw this around there. Okay, nice and protected. Alright, so now we'll get our heat gun out and we will heat up this capacitor here. Or this fuse here, and we'll get it off here. And we'll use it to replace our other one. And hopefully that's the only problem we have. Since we didn't see a short on this line, I think that's probably going to be the only problem that we have, but we'll replace it and find out. That fuse is off. We'll go ahead and move this board over here. Bring over our customer's board, and we are going to put a little bit more flux down just so the capacitor doesn't blow away, or the fuse doesn't blow away. And we'll just set this fuse right back in the spot of the other one. And then tap it into place here. Now you can't see it because it's in the microscope, but basically taking a little needle and pushing the fuse exactly where I want it. And now I'm going to go ahead and put some heat back on here, and we're just going to keep an eye on it and the microscope and see when it grabs hold. In future videos I'll try and do some screen captures on this microscope so you can actually see the work being done. So we're just heating it up now, and eventually we'll see that fuse just pop right into place, letting me know that it is attached on both sides. Alright, I think we're probably good. So we'll grab our little pointer again, wherever I put that thing. There's another one. And we'll just tap this and make sure that it doesn't move. Still moving a little bit, so it's not attached all the way. Okay, that should be good enough now. Sure. It is reattached. I'm going to bring this other microscope over here so you guys can actually see what was done here. So right here you can see this is the fuse that was replaced. So we're going to clean this area up a little bit. Flux off as we can. Looks like we did melt this capacitor slightly right there on the corner. We must not have gotten it down all the way. But we can remove our tape now, and we'll go ahead and clean up this entire area. That fuzz off there. Q-tip. Yes, we can. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and plug this back into power injector, and we'll see if we are getting the correct amount of voltage and current draw that we should for a working system. Alright, so go ahead and plug this back on here and hook this back up to ground, and we'll press our output button, and we can see that we still are only getting 63 milliamps of current. So there is another issue somewhere. So that fuse wasn't the only problem that we have on this system. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to check that fuse again. We're going to see if that fuse blew when we injected power into it. It could possibly have blown again. Let's see. Oh, it looks like it actually did. I actually wasn't smart enough though to check that fuse and make sure it was good before I put it in there. So it could be that I put in a bad fuse. So we are going to remove this fuse again, and we're going to put another fuse in there after we check it and make sure that the fuse is good. So I gotta wrap up our capacitor again. See if we can do a little bit better of a job this time and protect that corner that we missed last time. Okay. It's really weird that we're seeing, I'm kind of curious, before I pull this off, I'm going to inject power here. I'm going to see if when we inject power, if we get a short on that capacitor, to see if we're actually blowing the fuse because there's a short somewhere. Alright, so we'll inject power now. We're still not getting the current that we're supposed to, and I want to see if we have a short right here. We do not have a short. Oh, we do have a short. Okay, we have a short on this side. So that's what's blowing the fuse. Okay. So there lies our problem. We need to figure out what is causing the short here. There's really nothing on this side of the board, I don't believe, that can cause that short. I think it's probably caused by a short in this area right here. Probably should have checked this before we replaced the fuse, but I didn't see a short on that capacitor, so let's see. I'm not getting a short here. Are we getting a short here? We are not. No short there. We don't have a 12-volt short, no. That's odd. Let's see. Let's see if we're getting a short on the HDMI encoder. We are not. Okay, so is there anything else over here that could possibly be causing a short here? So it's right next to this hole here. See, there's really nothing else attached to that. So I am not sure where our short is. I'm not sure where that line goes to, so we're just going to have to look around and check all these caps and see if we find any shorts anywhere. Just check all the easy stuff first that we know to check. Not seeing any shorts on any of the places where we usually see a short. Good there. Good there. Okay, that might be a short right there. Yep, okay. So we have a short right here on this capacitor. Alright, so we need to figure out what is causing this short. So again, you won't be able to see because I'm looking in the microscope, but we are going to look and see if we have any cracks on any of these capacitors. If you see a crack on the capacitor, you can assume it's probably shorted out. So I'm going to try and look at it in the other microscope, so hopefully you can see it. We're going to look right here and see if we see anything unusual on any of these caps. They are slightly different colored. I really don't see anything unusual with either one of them. Prod them, make sure we don't see any damage or anything. PS5 Pro. Okay, sorry about that. I had a customer call in the middle of my repair, but let's get back to where we were. So, when I left the video before, there was a short right here on one of these two capacitors. Or it could have been this one over here. So what I did was I did a power injection with 2 volts and 1 amp, and I just tapped it right here on this side, and I put some isopropyl alcohol on the 2 of these caps, and I looked to see which one dried first. So this is the one that dried almost immediately, so that led me to believe that that was the capacitor. So I took that capacitor out, it's right here, and now when I check here, I no longer have a short on this capacitor. And then I also checked on the other side with that fuse. I no longer have a short where that fuse was. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this aside, and we're going to pull back our board back up over here, and we are going to steal that capacitor right there. So we're going to put a little bit of flux down here, and we're going to get our heat gun back out, and we are going to pull this capacitor out right here, and we're going to put it on that other board. Okay, so that capacitor's out. I'm going to go ahead and put this board back down here on the floor. We're going to bring over our other board, our original board, and we are going to go ahead and put this capacitor right back in that spot. And we'll line everything up, and we will apply some heat and get this thing repaired. We want to try and line it up as best as we can. When it does start to flow, the solder, it actually will just kind of bounce right into place. But we don't want it to stick to the other capacitor, so we want to make sure we have a little bit of gap there. So we've got our gap now. Oh, you can see it sliding a little bit. Alright, so we're just going to apply our heat and wait for that thing to reattach. You see it moved a little bit there, but that wasn't a full attachment. See everything kind of getting hot, so we are probably attached. Oh, there we go. There we go. You saw it bounce right into place there. So now we know it's attached well. So we go ahead and just remove our heat and give it a second to cool off. And we're going to kind of tap that thing on both sides. Looks good. We'll go ahead and clean up some of the flux off of here. Sure we're nice and clean here as best as we can get it. Okay. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to see if the short came back when we put this back on. It did not. So now we want to flip this over and we want to check our fuse again, which was right here. Our fuse is still blown, so we are going to have to replace the fuse, but we want to check and make sure that we're not shorted right here, which we are not. So we're going to go ahead and pull this fuse back off. We need to tape up our capacitor again. Piece of tape here. And just tape it back up again to protect it from melting or popping. Okay. This is going to come out a little bit easier this time because this capacitor, or this fuse has been out already. So go ahead and put some heat on here. And unfortunately, we kind of wasted this fuse just because we didn't check both sides of this capacitor. That was, or both sides of the fuse to see if it was shorted. That was our mistake. We're going to go ahead and pull this out, and we'll just pull another fuse off that donor board again. Okay, and we'll set that fuse aside. We'll put this board over here in a safe spot. Melting anything, so we'll make sure we put the hot area on the metal here. And we'll grab our board back up again, and we're going to look for another fuse on here that we can pull off. A lot of these boards are missing a lot of the fuses though, so it might take us a minute to find one. See, we're missing a fuse there. Let's see, is this fuse still intact here? Yes, it's right there. So we are going to grab that fuse this time, and we're going to replace that fuse. Where is that fuse? Actually, there's one right there too. Let's see what that one is. Let's take this one. Before we take it, let's check it real quick and make sure it's a good fuse. We forgot to check that last time. They usually are, but smart to check them. Okay, we got a good fuse there. So let's get our tweezers and let's get our heat gun and let's get this fuse out of here. fuses off. So now we can put this board to the side. And grab this board back up. And we will drop this fuse right back in the same area. The flux that's on there will kind of hold it in place, and then we just grab one of our little probes here, and we will put this back into place as close as we can. And same thing with the last one. You get it as close as you can, but when everything heats up, it kind of pulls it into the spot it's supposed to. So grab our heat gun again, and we will apply some heat here. You don't want to get too close in the beginning because you will blow that away, even though there is flux holding it on. You want to kind of stay back a little bit till the flux gets warm. And then you can see the fuse is now getting warm. And in just a second it should pop into place. Haven't done it yet. Sometimes if you get it exactly where it's supposed to be, it actually won't pop into place because it's already in place, but I don't think we've gotten it hot enough just yet. Let's see. Okay, now it's starting to turn a little bit. Okay, there we go. Slid right into place. So we should be good now. Let's go ahead and take our heat off. Check, let this cool for just 1 second. We'll check and make sure it's attached on both sides. Feels good. Okay, let's get a little bit of isopropyl alcohol here, and let's clean the flux off of this area a bit and try and clean it up some. Okay, and of course we got another fuzzball on there. Alright, now everything should be good. I think this time when we inject current, oops, that's hot. I think it's going to be okay. I think we're going to get the exact current that we're looking for. So let's go ahead and inject our current here. We did change to 2 volts for the power injection, so to find the short. So we're going to change this back to 12 volts, 1 amp, and we're going to output the current, power, and as we see there, now it gets above 300 milliamps, and then it should drop down to 0, and we should be good. Alright, that should be the fix for this console. So we turn our power injection off. We are going to clean this area up and reflow that, but before we do that, I want to go ahead and put this back into the system, and we're going to try and power it on, and we're going to see if it actually powers on and works and everything, so that we know it's good before we really start cleaning everything up and packaging it all back together. So let's put our board back in here. We do need to put our clamp on. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but these systems, if they don't have this clamp on, they will overheat within, less than a minute. Sometimes they overheat immediately. Sometimes it takes about a minute for everything to really power on and get hot, and then it'll power off. But it usually will power off before you get to the point where you actually can check and see if the video comes on. So anytime you're going to power it on, it's just smart to put the clamp back on and tighten it back up. We will have to remove this clamp when we go to put this back together, but for now we're just going to tighten everything up and make sure that the system powers back on, and make sure that we have video. This is really as far as we have to take it to test everything. We just need to plug in the power button, and then we plug in our indication light up here at the top, and we can go ahead and connect power and connect the HDMI port back up, and hopefully we get a video output. And first of all, we want to see that the system turns on, because that was originally our problem, was the system wasn't even turning on. So we'll hook up our power here. It takes a few seconds for it to actually register the power, so just give it a few seconds here. And we'll go ahead and press our power button. And as you can see, we are getting our blue indication light here. We want to see this light turn white, and then that will either turn on the TV, or we may have to turn it on ourselves. We'll see. It looks like the TV is actually not turning on. but we are getting our blue light, so I'm just going to go ahead and reach over here and turn on the TV. And as this goes through its progression, eventually this will turn white. There we go, it turned white. We're probably going to be doing a database rebuild over here. We're going to change the input to HDMI. Okay, HDMI. And we did the database rebuild. It looks like the video might be bouncing a little bit. Oh. So it's doing the database rebuild. It is now going through the setup again, and it should turn on at 1080p. It's saying mode not supported, so there's most likely a problem with this HDMI port. As you can see, when I wiggle this cable, it is bouncing all around. So so we have the video, but we know this HDMI port is definitely marginal. This is why we don't really clean everything up before we test everything. So we know that the system now is repaired. The power short is repaired. So we are going to turn the system off, and we are going to also replace this HDMI port. As you can see, the HDMI port was done before, and somebody did a pretty poor job. These solder points look terrible. So we are going to pull off that HDMI port, and we are going to clean all that up, and then we should be pretty good. So, oh, system didn't turn off. Let's give it a second here. Don't want to unplug it with the light on, so, okay, there we go. So now we're turning the system off. We want to make sure this fully turns off. And when it fully turns off, we're going to go ahead and replace this HDMI port. So we can take this clamp back off. Okay, looks like power is completely turned off, so we can go ahead and unplug this. Screw feels almost a little stripped. Whoever worked on this before also may have slightly stripped that screw. So we'll disconnect the power, and we will pull out these two ribbon cables, and we're going to pull the board back off again because we are going to do that HDMI port. Set this back aside here. Alright, before we pull off the HDMI port, I am going to grab an HDMI port, and I'm going to get one pressed up. I will show you how to prep the HDMI port. So we're going to pull out a brand new port here, and we're going to bring over our microscope. And the first thing that we want to do is we want to tin up all these pads. So we're going to get a little bit of flux, and we're going to put a little bit of flux across these pins. And then we're going to take our soldering iron, and we're going to take just a little dab of solder on the tip of this iron. Okay. And we are going to run it across all these pins, and you'll see they'll all turn silver once they get a little bit of solder on them. So we're going to run it along these pins and just get a little bit of solder on each one of them. That really helps the port grab when you go to attach it. So you want to make sure you kind of get rid of all that gold there on the tip. And there's a perfectly tinned HDMI port. You can see there's no bridges between any of the ports or anything like that, or pins. So that one is good to go. So we'll set this aside, and we'll have it ready to put in. And then we are just going to basically stick this over the edge a little bit here and put some weight on the back end. And we're going to get our heat gun here, and we're just going to basically heat it up underneath. And once it's hot, we're going to pull this port out, and we're just going to drop the new port right back in, and we'll be all set. So apply a nice even heat pattern on here, and once this thing's ready, we'll just grab it and pull it out. Should be getting pretty close now. So much extra solder there on the bottom that's taking a little longer than it usually goes to pull out, but that's mostly due to just the poor job that the last person did with this. So just keep applying our heat. pulling up on it. Burning my hand a little bit. I don't usually have to put this much heat on there. There we go. Alright, so that port is out. So we'll grab the new port and we'll have it ready. And we'll heat this up again. And once we get everything hot, we'll go ahead and just drop the new port in. And I like to put pressure on the back side of this a little bit and then pull the heat off. And that pressure on the back side really helps to keep the port down in the back so that the pins reattach. So we had to use a little extra heat, so we're going to hold it for a few extra seconds here to make sure everything hardens back up. Once we do that, we can go ahead and turn off our heat, and we're going to bring our microscope back over here, and we are going to check this port real quick. So we check the port by basically just putting it under the microscope here, and we get a real good focus on it here, and we test all the pins and see if all the pins are attached. Okay, so we have some pins that aren't attached, so it didn't quite go down all the way. I wonder if it's due to all this excess solder here on the back. First of all, let's clean a little bit of this up. You can see there is just globs of solder here. And it seems like maybe they used even leaded solder, or unleaded solder, sorry, because it is not melting very well. So we are going to try and clean this up as best we can here. It is a real mess. Yeah, this is definitely unleaded solder that they used. I do not like that, but it's on here, so we'll use it to get this all sorted out. But man, just what a shoddy job. Okay, that is a little bit better. Okay. Alright, so now we are going to put our board back like this again. And we're going to heat everything back up and see if we can get that port to actually go down all the way, since those pins didn't attach. You can put a soldering iron on them and just kind of tap them into place if you want. I don't really like to do that. This usually gets the process done the best way. Just heating it up and putting a little bit of pressure on the back. Normally I don't have this problem because I usually don't have a system that has so much solder on the back like that. Okay, you can see the port just loosened up and everything is back down and in place. That time we definitely got through the solder. So hopefully we should be good now. So let's put our heat gun up and we will bring our microscope back up here and we will check these pins again. We're just going to put a little bit of pressure on each one of them and make sure that they are attached. That one's attached. Okay. Okay, we still got a couple that aren't attached here in the middle. Yeah, so we are really having trouble with this one. This just goes to show you, do not use non-leaded solder when you are trying to put these on. Obviously this person really didn't know what they were doing because they did such a poor job with it, but just to let you all know, it is a bad idea to use non-leaded solder. I'm putting these on here. It just doesn't melt as well. So we're going to particularly hit this side here this time, since this side is the side that really didn't want to go down and reattach. So, okay, everything's hot again. We got it pressed down. Okay. Alright, let's test it for a third time. Third time's a charm. Let's see here. Go ahead and pull over here, and we'll make sure all the pins that we already checked are still good. Okay, they are not good now. Boy, this thing is really having a problem. I should have probably cleaned all that solder off and just started with new fresh solder. I don't like to do that because I usually like to just drop the port in because that's the best way to get it to attach. But in this situation, if I would have known that they were using non-leaded solder, I would have pulled everything off and started from scratch on that. I'm going to go ahead and see if we can kind of get more surface space this time in the back and see if we can really push everything down at the same time. If we have a problem with this again and it doesn't attach this time too, I'm probably going to go ahead and pull this port off, and we're going to clean everything off of here and see if we can just start all over. I really don't like to have to be doing this multiple times, but there's certainly an issue here. So let's go ahead and check port again. So balance it well. And let's see. I can already see it looks like that right there is not attached. Okay, we have still some that are not attached, and especially in this area. And I'm actually looking at this right now. I'm wondering if this is even, there might be a trace missing here. I did not look at the traces. They typically don't pull. But this might be a missing trace. We may actually have to do a jumper here. Let me see. No, there actually is a trace there. I'm going to go ahead and just try and tap these into place here. So we just basically come in with the iron and we just heat it up, and we kind of try and put a little downward pressure on it and see if that gets it into place. We got several in this area right here that we're not attaching. Okay. Let's check and see if we have any more that are not attaching. I usually don't like to do it this way, but this thing is just being such a pain. We're just going to do what we can do to get it working. Okay, we're carefully pressing on every single pin to make sure that they are all connected. We still have one pin there. It's not connected, so let's go ahead and press down on this pin right here and see if we can get that one attached. Again, that one looked like the trace was missing, but once we put some solder on it, you can actually see that solder's not missing. So I'm going to first check the pin that we touched, and then we'll check both pins on each side of it just to make sure we didn't heat anything else up and unattach any traces. Okay, so everything is attached. So I think we're going to be good now. So we'll go ahead and put this port back in, or this board back in, and we're going to check this port. And then if it is, we'll go ahead and clean everything up and get it back to the customer. Okay. Hook in the power button, hook in the indicator light, and we're going to put our clamp back on. See if this one feels so tight this time when we put it in. Last time it felt like it was catching a little bit. I can already feel it is catching. I think somebody has stripped out that hole a little bit. Oh, snaps upside down. Feels like this hole is somewhat stripped. Just don't want to start very well. Okay, got these both on, and yep, it's really tight again. So it's only tight right in the beginning though, so we'll go ahead and just leave it like it is. I don't think it's going to cause any issues or anything like that. Let's just get this thing tightened down, and we'll make sure that it turns on and that the video is stable this time. So look up our power, look up our HDMI port, and we will go ahead and hit the power button. For still getting our blue indication light, so the system is still turning on. So now we're just going to wait and make sure that we get 1080p, which is what we got right there. We will wiggle this cable a little bit, and while we're wiggling the cable, we will look at the screen and we'll make sure that it's not bouncing or glitching or anything like that. And it's not. So now we know that this system is good to go. We need to wait for the white indicator light to come on and make sure that we get to the next screen past the PlayStation screen to make sure it's not some sort of boot loop or something like that. And there we go, we got past PlayStation and it's ready to pair a controller. So everything looks good. So we're going to go ahead and turn this system off. We're going to clean everything up and we're going to take care of that liquid metal and we'll get this back to the customer. And on this one, we're going to end up charging them for an HDMI port and a power short. So thanks for joining me on the video, and I'll see you again on the next video. Please like and subscribe if you like this material, and I would appreciate any feedback on whether you like the point of view repair with the meta glasses or not. Thank you. Bye.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for tuning in for another amazing showcase of Retro to Fix, produced by 1100 Productions. This is your host, Jacob, signing off. If you've got a broken system or console and you need a repair, reach out, 561-320-7580. Remember, drop a like, hit subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, everybody. And good night.